Welcome back, League of Legends faithful. We're catching up now with our final series of the night, which is a showdown between Tempo Storm and Team Gates. In Game 1, Quas got a hold of Camille.
Yeah, which is something you generally don't want to do, but we saw it twice so far today. RF Legendary didn't look so hot on it. Quas apparently did. At 50 minutes into the game, Vi is going to come up to join him. They had a Tom Kench counterpick to try and hold it down, which was working out all right until this chain CC combo looks pretty brutal to play against.
Yeah, you can eat one, but you can't really eat two. And like you mentioned, the chain CC kind of being the go-to thing for Tempo Storm. That replay really got things going. And as soon as Team Gates fell behind, they had a little bit of troubles, ironically, dealing with a split push.
Yeah, I mean, you think that they would have learned something from Trick2G. Apparently not. And the Camille got out of control. And ultimately, Tempo Storm was able to snowball throughout the game. It was actually only a 27-minute game, 27:45. And this is kind of the final play that ended it. There's a weird situation where Tempo Storm had Vi and Syndra on the top side, but they make a play with a Tom Kench trying to pour it in to force a fight, but they can't even win it 4v3.
No, and as you just see here, it's just destruction at this point. There's a split on the top side as well, where you wind up having your Camille and your Syndra on the top side, and the rest of the members of the team on the bottom side. I was pointing the top side of the map.
Right.
That was for you.
Yeah, right.
No,
not the typical lane setup, having your mid and top split pushing together.
No, and so unfortunately, it just goes to show how far Team Gates was behind at that game. And I mean, you also got to give a special shout out to Hatrix, his Syndra, who was split pushing with the Camille on the top side of the map. His ultimate was, you know, doing Syndra things and just absolutely destroying people.
Right. It's a little unfair to say, like, Quas just hard carried this game by himself. The entire team of Team Tempo Storm was playing well. Obviously, if it's going to be a 28-minute game, it's not usually off the back of just one dude popping off.
Well, speaking of Quas, earlier on, we heard from him, and we got to talk about a little bit what he brings to the team of Tempo Storm.
Yeah, so I think I've always been a player that's really strong in terms of my strategies that I can, my certain picks, my certain specialty picks that I like to do. And before that, could definitely get nullified by a lane swap. So I think now in this current meta, there's a lot, I think there's a lack of innovation from top laners in LCS and I see in the leagues that they're not really trying to go for this specific picks that I think could be good. Given that it's going to be a standard lanes. So that's what I'm excited to compete again and then bring those in on my own.
Definitely is the case where topside right now does feel a little too safe. I mean, the tanks are all very strong. They generally are going to be useful at all points in the game. We see a couple common counter picks coming out of people like the Fiora and like the Jace, but there are so many more options available. Last week we saw with his Swain, made its way into the LCS. What else does he have up his sleeves?
Well, he had an Alawi, and apparently if you let him get Camille, he's going to get that as well. So why don't we just jump into game number 2 here and meet the teams. Starting on the blue side, it's Tempo Storm. We just heard from Quas up in the top lane. Jungler is Sentinel, mid lane is Hatrix, and the bottom lane is Freeze and Sheep.
Once again, on the red side, it's Team Gates. In the top lane, Alorum. Jungle is the Odd Orange. Mid, Strumpus. And in the bot lane, it's Vex and Vincent.
So now this is Team Gates going down 0-3 in games. They already had a 0-2 week last week against Delta Fox. They were able to hold on to those games, keep them very scrappy, but their kind of style has been like what we often refer to as like that kind of solo queue style where they look extremely lost in the beginning stages of the game and really kind of rely on these haphazard kind of objective fights that come out ahead.
Right, and the weird thing is the fact that they did give up the Camille on red side to Quas to get his hands on, so obviously their priority in the draft phase is a little different than everybody else. Now on the red side themselves, we're gonna have to see what they're able to grab away. It is a little bit harder to target ban, so I mean, Quas will probably be able to get his hands on something crazy. First bands coming in, the Rise on the side of Tempo Storm, and Team Gates looking like they're setting up for the classic Rengar, LeBlanc, Camille bans, Rengar being the first one.
Well, to be fair, Quas usually comes up with something crazy. I don't think he's played... Camille's the most standard thing he's played.
Only 5 bans. You can't ban out his 20-plus champ pool, whatever it is.
I guess not. Like, we've seen the Alawi, we've seen the Swain. Like you said, he's had success with Equifox in the LCS. I mean, he's been known to play a lot of Vladimir. Like, there's a lot of things he could potentially bust out, and the last thing I want to see him play here is a Maokai or a Nautilus, especially after we just heard from him saying that people are afraid to innovate, but they're still sticking with a solid ban strategy here. Syndra, Kha'Zix, and Rise being banned out from Tempo Storm, and of course, the LeBlanc and the Rengar pickup. Now let's see if that Camille follows suit.
Right, if the Camille comes through again, I'm sure Tempo Storm would be happy to grab that first.
Oh.
Otherwise, the Malzahar ban, so it looks like Team Gates doesn't want them to take away the Malzahar Zyra, which is something I think Tempo Storm was setting up for, instead saying, here, play the Camille again. We thought our Tahm Kench counter pick into it was fine. We just need to not get snowballed quite so hard.
Take it.
And Tempo Storm decides not to take it, which actually isn't the worst idea in the world given the fact that Team Tempo Storm was able to get it on the red side before. So Team Gates didn't show priority on it last game. I think they're taking a little bit of a gamble here, saying we don't think they're going to take it again. Instead, grab the Varus away, a very popular pick to take in the first rotation on red side.
Yeah, and that Varus being one of the stronger of the AD carries right now. The lethality changes we touched upon at the beginning of the show, making him a little bit further above the Jhin, who was already kind of right below him and Ashe to begin with, and of course the Ashe, which doesn't really benefit from the lethality. Team Gates are going to respond very quickly by picking up that Jhin, and they go for the Lee Sin, which is one of the more powerful jungle pickups still left in the pool. Kind of an odd orange signature champion, but Sentinel was completely fine playing Vi. He's played it 2 out of the 3 matches so far.
Right, I mean, it wouldn't be surprised to see Vi locked in again. There's also the more standard picks, like the Rek'Sai still available, and we see the Vi, like you were just saying, and I mean, the thing about the Vi is it has that very guaranteed CC at 6, and so if Quas is going to play weird counter picks and you want to be able to snowball him, Vi is a great champion for being able to do that.
Right, and of course, if Quas wants to take the Camille here, he can. If he doesn't, and they wind up picking the Camille on the side of Team Gates, leave it to someone like Quas to have something innovative to go against it. Might not be the Alorium Tahm Kench kind of counter pick, but we're not even going to see it because Quas is going to just take that Camille while they can.
Right, it's basically your last chance to grab it. I assume if it went to the second ban phase, it would not make it through. So of course they grab the Camille, pretty confident that it's going to be able to come through and put up big results again. On the other side, we see Poppy locked in, which is what we have seen as one of the most common tank counter picks into it. Not going for the crazy Tahm Kench this time, instead going with the Poppy.
Well, we saw Brandini play this matchup into RF Legendary's Camille. It was very Poppy-sided in that matchup, although that may be more of Brandini versus RF Legendary. And we heard from Brandini himself saying how he wanted to play that matchup, how it compares to the kind of tank versus tank matchup. Now it's on Alorium. His Tahm Kench counter pick didn't work out against Camille. Can the Poppy?
Right, and since we did have an even draft phase in the first part for the picks, we're going to have to see what they do with the bans. This, like we said before, can be the awkward part where you're somewhat banning them out, somewhat banning yourself out. It's about navigating this part of the phase because we have the mid laners and supports to get through, and a lot of support attention already given between Malzahar and Thresh.
Yeah, Malzahar, Thresh being banned out, but that does mean that both Karma and Zyra are left available. So one could go for the one and the other could go for the other. Of course, if you pick up that Zyra, the Misfortune support becomes an option, so that's still available. And it does look like that they're not going to wind up targeting either one of those in the ban phase here.
No, they're going with the MF ban so that they can first pick the Zyra on their side. And the Karma is obviously a much weaker counter than the MF, which actually beats the lane. Karma just holds on pretty well. So Team Gates electing to set themselves up for that Zyra first pick. It also can force Tempo Storm to ban the Zyra here, giving them an option on the first pick mid laner potentially.
Right, and that also means that Karma is kind of like that last OP support left open, and with the Zyra being banned away, wouldn't be surprised to see Team Gates prioritize that. But Lulu is open, but that's really so much a kind of counter pick to the Malzahar, which would be there. But then that opens up like a whole world of like some of these melee support. But it looks like Nami's going to be locked in by Team Gates, and they give up another conceivable power pick.
Right, it is a little surprising to see such a heavy focus on the bans around bot lane, and especially the support pick, and then not go for what is perceived to be the strongest one left available in Karma. We see Adrian in the LCS having a similar priority on the Nami. Some people really, really like it, and it is a pick that when you hit the bubble and combo with the tidal wave and everything else the kit does, it does look really strong, but it is a lot higher skill cap champion than just pressing RE on Karma. And there's my team fight contribution.
Yeah, but if you hit RE on Karma, it still works.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is I personally prefer the Karma. You can be brain dead as long as you can do RE, you're going to get it off.
Well, the Corki's been picked up for the mid lane here from Tempo Storm, so that's been a pick that we've seen already multiple times this evening. We've seen it a lot in competitive, a lot of damage coming out from that, and it also goes extremely well with the kind of poke setup that we already have with the Varus. So we'll see what the last pick is going to be from the side of Tempo Storm, and they're going to take away the Tahm Kench.
Right.
That's going to be a support Tahm Kench.
Right, and I mean, it's a pretty strong pick. We've seen it a number of times. What?
Could be support Camille and Tahm Kench top, but
that's potential.
It's potential, but I mean, I sound really confident. I just want to cover all my base at this point because it's Challenger. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the LCS. Who knows? So,
exactly.
The last pick coming in, of course, is the Azir. It's something that doesn't really beat Corki super hard, but as the game goes later and later, that Azir becomes a nightmare to play against as he just keeps poking you out. Corki, also a champion with a lot of poke, but not quite as heavy on the zone control where it feels like you can't walk up at all.
Well, that Azir is one of those champions that, as you mentioned, scales extremely well into the later stages of the game. Team Gates have been struggling to kind of secure early game advantages, and they really thrived when they were able to stall things out and wait till Elder Dragon, wait till Baron pit fights, where the Azir can kind of be effective. But as you mentioned, he's not going to have the strongest laning phase, and those pokey kind of champions that can bully him around before he really starts getting some points into his queue, before his Sand Soldiers become really, really effective, that Corki matchup is going to be a little bit difficult for him to handle.
Right, and we see Tempo Storm having a pretty interesting comp where they have a ton of dive in the form of Camille, Vi, and even Tahm Kench can go in. And on the other hand, you see a lot of poke in the Varus and the Corki.
Well, as you see from our screen to yours, our final game of the evening here from the NA Challenger Series. It's only the second week, but we're in our fourth match of the night. Team Tempo Storm on the blue side is up 1 game already over Team Gates, still searching for their first victory in the Challenger Series, this time on the red side.
I gotta say, I do like Team Gates comp a lot more than Team Tempo Storms, minus, of course, the fact that you have the crazy Camille pick available for Tempo Storm, but
I feel like I've said this before. I automatically root for the team with Camille because it's so difficult to lose with that champion.
So you root for them so that they can win more with the champion they're expected to win for?
I mean, I'm rooting for the Camille because I feel like that's the right answer.
I thought you were going to say you're rooting for it so it wins and then gets nerfed heavily.
I mean, that's a subplot as to why I'm rooting for it to win,
Okay.
but I mean, I'm an 80 carry.
Multiple reasons.
I'm an 80 carry player. There's enough things to dive on me. I don't need to be one-shot by a Camille's true damage Sheen proc in the backline.
Yeah, I can understand that not being the most fun thing to play against.
Nah, it's actually very interactive. This mid lane dance is interactive. I actually really like that Azir skin. It looks really, really sweet.
Which one was it? I told you, I don't see skins. I just see champion and kit.
It's the Warring Kingdoms Azir.
Look, doesn't look like anything to me. It doesn't look like any sort of anything to me.
It looks like a chicken. It's the year of the rooster. He's dressed up just like it. He's a birdman.
I thought Braum, that was supposed to be Santa, was a lobster fisherman, Tom. I clearly am not the smartest person here when we start talking about skins.
If you can't get Christmas, I'm going to assume you don't get Lunar New Year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, further you move away from America, the less I know.
Do you know what actual New Year's is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's when the ball drops and you go, woohoo!
Yes. Okay. So we're starting out. We'll start out slow. I'll remind you when Valentine's Day comes up because I'm sure you'll get me something.
Not gonna happen. We see both junglers starting on the top side. Once again, Lee Sin not messing around with Krugs or Raptors, moving straight down the bot side as Vi clears out more of her blue side jungle.
Going to keep our eyes on that top lane matchup. Maybe not at the early stages of the game. RF Legendary and Branzini, when they played this matchup, once each other kind of had their ultimates and they went back for the first time and teleported back into lane, that's where things started to heat up. We did see it in game number 1. Sentinel prioritized getting Quas ahead in this Camille matchup and having him naturally snowball his lane after that. So we could see a little bit more priority chosen from that. I'm also just really interested with this Sentinel Vi pickup. He's prioritized it extremely heavily. It was banned away from him in week number 1. So I'm really looking for him to kind of be Tempo Storm's directional force in the early game, because in week 1, they too kind of played the slow and steady, eventually wins the race style.
Right. And speaking on the top lane that you touched on, it really is the kind of thing where if it's kind of like a game of chicken. If the Camille ever uses her E, the Poppy can very easily stuff it and then slam her against a wall. So if Camille never decides to use that, then it's hard for Poppy to really punish her. And for the most part, it results in a little bit of just basic laning and trading.
Well, basic laning is what we'll be seeing for a little bit. His hat tricks on this Corki pickup in the mid lane. That was a force to be reckoned with on the Syndra last time around. Different sort of burst coming out from Corki in this mid lane matchup, but we have seen Corki pick and woof in the first series of this evening. Had some really good roams on it. He didn't utilize his package as aggressively as some people would have wanted him to, like you, Mark. But he did utilize it to move around the map extremely well, and in combination with that buy, that could be where the early pressure gets exerted from Tempo Storm.
Right, especially if the Tahm Kench is 6 as well. It's very easy to port in behind the enemy team with the Vi, set her up so she can use her Q and R aggressively as opposed to just getting in range. We see Quas coming out on top of these trades, though Alorum has the push on his side. Probably going to recall and get a TP off here once he gets this into the turret.
Yeah, so a very, I wouldn't say slow start, but a very uneventful start so far as Hatrix uses that scrying plant, though. He's going to get jumped on by Odd Orange, has to burn the flash and the exhaust. Odd Orange is going to follow over the wall, safeguards away, but it has to to hop back as Sentinel Vault Breaker's in. Hatrix does get hit by the Sonic Wave. No resonating strike. He's behind this tower.
Probably a smart decision not to go for that. Would have been just a little bit off of finishing him. And then Sentinel is there for potentially trading back. So playing it on the safe side, backing off away from there, just returning back to his jungle to farm up a little bit more. As Vi looks like she might want to have a look at those Raptors.
No, well, that's also double Summoner's Burn from Corki in the mid lane, where it's only a flash traded away from the odd orange Lee Sin, but now Zentil's going to make his presence known in the mid lane. Stromp is just going to shuffle his way out of that one, doesn't burn any of his own summoners, despite the jungler paying attention to his lane.
Right, just helping him get the push into the turret so that Corki can get that reset off. Can't be too happy about having to burn both his summoners as well as getting chunked out pretty low, so no surprise there. Top side, the Poppy did in fact stick around. Wave coming back into her now. Going to be able to even up that CS off the waves coming in.
Yep, meanwhile in the mid lane, Hatrix going to Valkyrie a little bit forward, knowing that Strumpus had already used that soldier to push forward. Hatrix using that window of opportunity to trade some poke damage back onto the Azir. Both these mid laners, though, have chugged through a couple of potions. There's still one biscuit left on the side of Azir. Both of their health bars and mana bars are a little bit low, though.
Right, and we see Varus getting the tier pretty early on here. 5 minutes and 30 into the game. Trying to get that stacking up as soon as they can. Get that Mirror Mana transformation in. Overall, pretty slow game to start out. That will get explosive at 6, and I expect to see them target more of the top side. We did talk about the fact that bot side does have good dive potential as well, but if you can get the Camille going versus the Poppy, then that's going to be a huge benefit.
Well, we already saw Odd Orange getting a little bit into the action, and this is not Kitsuo. This is not the starting jungle that Team Gates has. They're still using him as a substitute at this point in time. But we mentioned that Team Gates, they strike us as more of the solo queue kind of style. They're more about somebody making an individual play and opening up a lane on the map, or trying to hold on until the opposing team makes a very critical mistake that they are eventually able to punish. The Odd Orange has been a very popular solo queue player for quite some time, always in Masters, Challenger level area. He's put on like a playmaking champion like Lee Sin. I want to see Team Gates try to make something happen extremely early. I don't want them to try to play safe, and I'm looking at Odd Orange on one of his signature picks. Like you said, gets exposed to level 6, has picked at the Tiamat to be a little bit more aggressive, so that's more of like the solo queue style Lee Sin being built up. I want him to kind of be the force for Team Gates to really get something done instead of sitting back and waiting.
Right, and their team comp, as much as you want to see them go aggressive early, is not the best for it, as we see Sheep trying to get onto the Nami there. If he was able to get one more hit in and pick her up and spit her back, the Vi was coming around the side trying to get a kill onto her, but ultimately they just trade flashes, not much getting done.
I'm going to call that the Tempo Storm special, because in week 1, match 1, they had Ashe, Vi, Malzahar, CC. The next game they picked Rek'Sai, Karma, Varus, like the dollar store version of the first game composition. This time around they have Varus, Tom Kench, and Vi. Their CC chains coming out of their jungle and bot lane duo have really kind of been like the crux of which they played a lot of their map play around. And those three together, I want to really keep my eye on what happens when they get picks like this, and they're able to do things like dive. The Assault and Battery comes out at level 6, and they're very quickly able to pick up a first blood.
Right, and that was basically free to go for because the Lee Sin was on the top side, soling away the blue buff. Corki roams up here to try and protect Quas from going down as well. Ultimately, Odd Orange is going to be the one getting zoned out. He's going to go down as well. Kills on both sides of the map coming in for Tempo Storm to get the dive on the bot side and punish the invade on the top side.
That time, there was a 1v1 in the Octagon, but the crowd was throwing stuff at him.
Yeah, the Corki's on the outside. Give the chair! Hit him with the chair!
Well, that time he hit him with a missile, which I think does a little bit more damage than a steel chair, but I've never been hit with a missile before.
I would hope not. But that is a pretty big dive to get off on the bot side. The Jhin Nami lane is one that you would think is supposed to win that lane ultimately, because Nami is best in lane, and the fact that they're already down 20 CS in that lane is pretty brutal.
Right, and that's kind of like the same thing with the Jhin Malzahar or the Jhin Lulu. You can just very easily tag somebody with damage from the ebb and flow. If you hit somebody with a bubble, it's a very easy chain with the Deadly Flourish to root people into place. And Jin's already packing a lot of heat, dealing a bunch of extra damage with his 4th strike critical shot. The Nami E is just going to buff that up even more, but that's just Team Gates, like you said, getting pushed in, not necessarily playing to their bottom lane strengths and getting pushed in against, well, a Varus who's a bully lane, but the Tom Kench who is a melee lane.
Well, there's always those small consolation prizes you can and look at Corki did not, in fact, get a blue buff.
Nope.
Azir has his blue buff, so there's your little happy part to look at if you're a Team Gates fan.
He also used the package to go kill a ward. Is that your favorite usage of the package?
I love it.
I love watching this top lane of Quas about to kill this Poppy, because I love myself some Poppy dying. And as I mentioned before, I'm rooting for the Camille in this matchup.
Oh, that's interesting. You hate both these champions with a passion, huh?
No, I hate Poppy with a passion, and I want Camille to...
be nerfed and go away.
You said...
Some people might consider that not liking the champion.
Mm-hmm.
See, a small setup in the bot lane here. They have a ton of vision control in the river, looking like they might want to get another dive going. Instead, Bai is going to focus on soloing the Cloud Drake down. Unfortunate to not get a better one for snowballing on the team Tempo Storm, but you got to be happy with whatever you can get.
Yeah, Cloud Drake's going to be there for free. They'll be able to get another Dragon spawn. They take this one with relatively low cost because they've gotten that kill on the bottom side. They've been able to deward the river. And the next one coming up is going to be a Mountain Drake. So if they continue to apply pressure on that bottom side of the map, they can reward themselves with a second Dragon and one that will help them crack some of those towers. But for now, pretty much every single lane has small advantages. Top lane's relatively close, the mid lane is relatively close, but that bottom lane, because of that early pressure, because of that early kill, 20 CS advantage in favor of Tempo Storm. You see Quas getting a little bit frisky with Alorum in this top lane. As soon as Auto Orange poked up, he had to burn the flash.
Right, it's a good flash by Quas. You don't want to risk getting knocked up and then chain CC in any kind of way, so good decision there as we see Sentinel sneaking in through the bot brush here as Corki starts roaming down the river. They're setting up dive 2.0.
Yeah, the Dragon's gone, so the dive is going to be the next look at this bottom side. But it seems that Team Gates, they're going to give this one up. We saw Delta Fox kind of fall prey to this trap with the Corki roaming from mid lane in our first matchup. This time around, it's Team Gates. They're not going to be falling for that trap. They're going to back away, and that's first blood tower gold. Given all the freeze, they all backed away.
Right, it's pretty nice to get on the Varus, start getting that snowball going with your newly buffed lethality items, being able to poke through the lack of armor on the side of Team Gates so far. And as much as you like saying the Poppy has a decent matchup in the Camille, it's about to not matter as much anymore as we see the bot lane of Tempo Storm starting to rotate up to the top side of the map. They want to start getting a move on these turrets.
That's right, so they're going to be the ones to initiate the rotational play. Also, that Varus first blood means that he got it very early tier. Picking up that solo tower gold means he gets that Ghostblade extremely early, so he's going to pop that, get some extra move speed, and everybody's coming up to party in the top lane right now. There's the Vi and the Tahm Kench combination as the delivery is right there. The Steadfast Presence goes as well, but Sheep is taking up this tower, uses the Grey Ult as well. The Exhaust comes out onto Alorum, but the Assault and Battery is also there. Everybody piles on the Poppy, and Alorum goes down.
Not the cleanest setup I've seen. It seemed like Quas was half-hearted in getting involved on that. People kind of went in one at a time. They still are able to pick up the kill, but it leaves most of them too low to continue pushing around the top side as Lee Sin and Nami move in to back up the top lane turret and keep that one alive.
Not the cleanest of dives, as you did mention. It kind of seemed like they were content with letting Poppy blow the flash and kind of get away, but Sheep really wanted that dive to happen, so they went for it. They were able to pick up a kill, but like you said, they do relieve a little bit of map pressure, and they allow Team Gates bottom lane to now rotate up to this top side and match them.
Right, but the nice thing is that, you know, Tempo Storm has so much pressure already with their bot lane completing the tier and the Ghostblade that they'll likely be able to set up another dive in a couple minutes once the ultimates are back available for Vi and Sheep. They'll hopefully be able to make another play up there as Quas now has the open lane for himself to work in. He's going to be able to push in and roam around the map a little bit more. Who knows what he's going to get up to.
Well, he's got himself a Trinity Force, so I'd have to say something involving a lot of damage on that Camille. Already 2-0-0 for himself. Trinity Force picked up by Corki in the mid lane as well.
Shorted it.
Oh, Sentinel does wind up missing that. The Dragon's Rage kick comes out from the Auto Orange to dissuade Tahm Kench from chasing after him, and he will get out alive.
One thing I got to compliment Team Tempo Storm on is their vision control. We saw a lot on the bot side when that's when they want to force around. Here we see a ton of wards in the top side jungle now that this is their objective. And that's something that they do a really good job of, it seems like, is whenever they set their eyes on something, they make sure that they have a lot of eyes on it.
Well, they're the CC chain team, so the biggest thing for kicking those people out of position is going to be seeing them out of position and knowing that they're out of position. So like you said, the warding, very, very good from the side of Tempo Storm. Unfortunately for Team Gates, we can't really say the same for them. They've been pressured on multiple sides of the map, but they haven't necessarily been putting down the needed defensive wards. Until now, they are spotting out that Sentinel and Hat-Tricks are moving in towards the red buff area, but they're putting them down as soon as they're there, and they're seeing they have to back away.
Right, and they have a ward to know that Azir had gone onto the bottom side of the jungle trying to get his blue buff. You see that ward sitting in lane right behind Azir here. So they knew that they were safe to go for that red contest, but as he moved back in the mid lane, they decided to back off it and not go for it, looking instead like they want to pressure around the turret, not just go for the red buff.
Well, Tempo Storm continuing to pressure on this top side of the map. Sentinels pretty much lived in this area, and we talked about the side of Big God's Jackals playing to their strong side of the map. They had Fabi. He has the LCS experience on their team. He was an AD carrier on Team Liquid, played the utility picks extremely well, and the utility picks are popular in this time around. This time around, it looks like it is Tempo Storm playing around Freeze. In the first week, he played the Ashe, utilized those arrows to really kick off those chain CC chains. Now he's picked up the Varus, a little bit more damage dealing, a little bit less utility, but could still lock players up, and it seems like they're still playing to that top side of the map.
Yeah, but it's being a little brute forcey. We see that Team Gates is able to react to that pressure. They know what's up. Lee Sin has been hovering around there this whole time as well. But Tempo Storm seems pretty happy to get basically a 3v3 lane going on as the mid laners are mostly relegated to wave clear.
Well, both of these teams took it relatively slow in their first
Corky's got the package, though, moving up, looking like he might want to go join in on a dive on the top side.
Well, he's going to walk over a ward, so we'll have to see if this package is used immediately or if it's going to be a zoning package. It looks like with the package threatening to be dropped on them, Team Gates will back away, and they see their second tower of the game top side.
I mean, Team Tempo Storm looking really good. I like everything I've seen out of them so far. They understand what their team comp can do. They have ways of diving both the top and bot lane. They decided to go with the bot lane this game and keep pressuring around it. Really good vision control, not overextending, something we see a ton of in the challenger scene. These guys had a really, really clean game one, able to win in 28 minutes, and looking like they're on path for a similar kind of performance here in game two.
Yeah, things are really looking up for Tempo Storm. Already a 4,000 gold advantage. The next dragon on the map is going to be a Mountain Drake. That'll be spawning right now. And they are having multiple members now move down to that bottom side, so they're starting to pressure that out. We saw a ward placed over the blue wall from the side of Team Gates, and this is all about kind of just constricting vision, gaining control of areas of the map. I wouldn't be surprised to see them push up towards that mid lane where the minions are already pushing up to the tower.
Right, and this feels a little bit like Team Gates is focusing too much, a little bit, on reacting to what Team Tempo Storm's doing. Tempo Storm already grabbed the advantage off that initial dive as we see Odd Orange trying to get something started here. Tempo Storm looking like they might be able to get out. The flash eat on Vi getting her away. Corky Valk's over the wall, and they are out scot-free with the dragon.
Yep, all of the CC not really being able to do anything there for Team Gates, and now that means that they're not going to have that to defend against another push, whether it be mid lane, whether it be Freeze pushing up this bottom lane. And like you said, Team Gates, they saw the dragon was happening. The dragon went down. They reacted and tried to go in for a fight. But Tempo Storm, when they're setting things up and they're a step ahead, they're not going to be able to be picked out by these things. As Sheep comes in here, uses the Tom Kench ultimate. Vex gets locked up here. Oh, Poke does not land. That was a big one, too. That was going to land and possibly take out Vex, but he stays alive.
They still get good damage down onto him, though, and it looks like they're going to be trying to pressure around this mid-outer turret, the last one left standing for Team Gates, who are able to move in and reinforce it in time.
Yep, and meanwhile, Quas is split pushing in the top lane, still content in this Camille versus Poppy matchup. Full Trinity Force in the Tiamat means he's going to be able to clear out a decent amount of waves and trade some damage on the Poppy. Has already picked up her own Sunfire Cape, though, on the side of Alorum, so he will be a little bit tankier in this 1v1 matchup, but the 4 members strong from Tempo Storm look to be getting a little bit of the better into this one, but Team Gates will open up. The kick in on Zenthal did wind up landing. He just flashes over the opposite wall, but Alorum teleports into this one. They catch on the Hatrix, has to flash away. There's no mana left. The Poppy knockup is there, but the Assault and Battery onto the Odd Orange. They can't convert, and they can't kill Hatrix. Instead, the Odd Orange winds up going down, and now it's Freeze, Rain in some pain when this arrow charges up a shot and gets a double kill. Quas has entered the fray, but he will be knocked back. Strompus barely gets out with his life, and Team Gates, they tried, but they got nowhere for that, and Quas is not done. The flash and the Octagon gets laid down onto Azir. Now he's turning down onto Vex. The hook shot will be up in just a couple of seconds, but it doesn't look like he wants to dive. Alorum's caught recalling by Freeze, but it's a Poppy against the AD carry, but Quas is coming in here, leaps after him, tries to get the slowdown. He will. Tom Kench collapses from the opposite side, and Team Gates, disastrous.
As a good idea overall, you see the sieging of Team Tempo Storm around the mid lane turret, and you want to get them out of there, so you TP in behind with the Poppy, and you try and get onto the carries like Corky and Varus, but ultimately they're able just barely to keep kiting out before ultimately tearing the fight around with the collapse coming in from Quas. So we'll take another look at it.
Yeah, and it seemed like Team Gates, all they wanted to do was defend against this tower, and it looked like it was going to start good with this kick onto Zentil, even the chase onto Hatrix.
Right, but he was able to flash the bubble to avoid the chain CC. Here, Alorm gets a nice flash E onto Hatrix, but we see the heal coming out from Freeze, keeping him alive, and then the Poppy is just barely unable to get the last hit, and that exhaust, I think, might have been able to negate just enough damage to keep him alive. And then once they're out of here, they're able to get the collapse coming in from Quas. They get a nice snipe from Varus once again. Strumpus just barely lives, getting out away from the Varus, and then Quas is on the chase now, though. He has the flash ultimate available, follows Strumpus down, and then he almost gets Jhin as well before they decide that, hey, Alorm's just sitting here, let's go for him instead.
That was just so much distance covered by Camille. Just one hook shot and then a flash afterwards. Alorm will eventually go down, but on the backside of that fight, we have gotten the Rift Herald being taken just before Baron spawns, and that's going to go over to Quas. He'll have that for a solid 20 minutes going into the 40-minute mark if this game continues out.
You want to bet on whether he uses the whole buff duration, Tom?
I am a betting man, actually.
And what will you bet?
I bet one ice cream that it does not last.
That sounds like a terrible bet. I will not take that. You didn't give me odds or anything.
You could get the side that it does expire.
Right, and so I should have like 10-to-1 odds at this point.
No. Because that means it will most likely expire at the pace this game is going. But the best part about an ice cream bet is that when I bet you an ice cream...
You think this game is going to last 40 minutes?
Well, no, I just want an ice cream.
Oh, okay.
See, the best part about that bet is we both get ice cream.
We're cutting you off right now. As we see Tempo Storm, they're setting up a lot of vision around the bot side. Quas, like we just mentioned, getting the Rift Herald buff, getting the lane pushing as well. Looks like a pretty easy lane setup for them to be able to take down this bot inner turret. It's very, very hard for Team Gates to really contest this. They're trying to move over there, but they have to be afraid of getting picked off.
Yeah, so the side of Tempo Storm, it's in their name. They got the tempo in this game. They have pretty much everything. They haven't even died at this point. An 8,000 gold lead, a Corki package wrapping around the backside. If you are Team Gates, you have to be extremely careful of this because you have the entire 5-man squad that you haven't been able to take in a scattered fight, and when they're grouped up and they're continuously poking down onto your tower, you need to be extremely careful. They have to back away from that tower. A blue buff's going to be donated over to Corki. They're going to try to push up some minions in the mid lane as well, and they're going to just be able to move back and forth between their enemy jungle because, like you said, they're continuing to establish vision.
Yeah, I mean, Team Tempo Storm has a team comp that's very fun to play from ahead. You get set up in front of turrets and you just keep shooting projectiles at them, and it's very difficult for Team Gates to really contest it. And unlike a lot of these weak poke comps, you still have good tanks in the support and jungle position, as well as engage and other options like that, so you're not just relegated to sitting back and poking being your only threat.
Well, the only things that Team Gates have really been relegated to this point in time have been like wave clear duty. As you said, the continuous poke coming out from Tempo Storm. There's not a lot that they can really do about it, and I feel like this is, once again, this is Team Gates not really being able to be proactive with anything. They are, you said before, reactive team. They need somebody to kind of make a mistake before something happens, but Tempo Storm, with the way they've been playing this game, the slow and steady pace of it, the fact that they're just covering all of their bases with their ward coverage, they have the Tom Kench to save them if they do get into an overextension. They have a 4-0 Camille that can kind of split push at will at this point. There's not a lot that Team Gates is going to be able to do to really capitalize on anything that Tempo Storm is doing right now, and they're actually going to eventually cede that bot lane tower from all that poke and pressure.
I mean, you mentioned them having 0 kills. They also have 0 turrets, as currently Tempo Storm's on pace for a perfect game. See, Stromp is trying to do his best to stop that from happening, but Hatrix is able to get the Valkyrie out. Not much done as they finish off the Air Dragon.
Yep, so that's another Cloud Drake going over to the side of Tempo Storm. That's going to be an Ocean Drake spawning on the next side, and that means, like you said, almost a perfect game lined up here for Tempo Storm. They keep at this pace, the gold lead is ever increasing. It's about 10,000 at this point at 23 minutes, which is
pretty good.
It's absurd. That's what it is.
I think most teams would be happy with a lead like that, most games.
As an official stats guide, what we call that discrepancy at this point is just absurd.
You have 3 absurd games this season so far.
If you have 3 absurd games, then you're
Cloud9 probably.
Or Immortals last year.
Yep. We see that it is going to be a little difficult for Tempo Storm to force around the Baron unless they're looking to turn. Vi only has Tabby's really as an armor item so far, so she's not the best tank. Obviously, Tahm Kench, being the support Tahm Kench, takes a little bit longer to get a lot of items on his side. Camille's going to be focused more on split pushing, so they don't have anyone who's good at tanking Baron, though they do have really good damage for it. So maybe they can burn it down with the help of that Mountain Dragon that they have. But overall, it could be a little slower if Team Gates doesn't go for any plays and focuses more on playing safe and wave clear. It might be a little hard for Tempo Storm to keep getting advantages.
Well, Tempo Storm and their Baron take may be the thing that Team Gates needs to turn things around. They do have an Azir who, while he isn't necessarily getting any kills, he's not getting any global gold, has hit a couple of items. He has his Berserker's Greaves, has his Nashor's Tooth, and the Rylai's Crystal Scepter. He's hit level 14. He's kind of at the point where Azir really starts to deal meaningful amounts of damage, where he becomes kind of that big fight and a big threat in team fights, where he's able to kind of turn things around. Jin's picked up 2 of his lethality items, which, as you mentioned, with not a lot of straight tanks on the side of Tempo Storm, could potentially provide a lot of damage. Well, Strampus takes a lot of damage as well.
Right, you see one of the things that the Azir really does struggle with, which is poke. Like you said, he has his 2 items online right now. Tempo Storm is a squishy-er team right now. The only thing that Sentinel has is the Hex Drinker, Sheep. Not really much else other than Merc Tread, so he has a chance to do a lot of good damage here if Tempo Storm ever flubs a dive or anything like that, but they do have really good diving tools.
Well, ever so slowly but surely, Tempo Storm have made their way up to that top lane where Quas was split pushing when they were on the bottom side of the map, and they whittle that tower down while Hatrix in the mid lane continues to do his quirky duties and try to push that one. Strampus goes for the Shurima Shuffle, does not land that, has to flash away. The Chain and Crushing just goes a little bit wide of landing onto Vincent. At the same exact time, Quas is still split pushing in the bot lane. He's gotten up to the inhibitor tower.
All right, that's the second time in a row we saw Strampus go for that Azir Sec play, not get far enough to actually convert on it, and end up having to get his butt out of there real quick because he almost died.
Yeah, in the meantime, Quas still has that Glimpse of the Void buff on him. Just the presence of Camille is enough to let them back away from that tower and let Freeze and the minions just take that one down. Hatrix on the backside as well. So now that is 6 towers down compared to the 0 of Team Gates. Every single outer tower on the map is unavailable for Team Gates. The inhibitor towers are next on the map. If you're Tempo Storm, you want to keep up that great vision you've been putting up all game. You want to try to threaten this Baron. You don't even have to finish it at this point. If Team Gates collapses and you have the superior vision, that's a fight you want to take.
Right. I'm going to go for the commentator's curse here and say Tempo Storm will get the perfect game.
That's a bold move, Mark. We'll see if it pays off.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can help Team Gates out here a little bit.
Would you put an ice cream on that?
No, stop trying to get ice cream from me.
I'm trying.
Well, there's no more outer or inner turrets left, so it's just the inhibitor turrets available. It is more difficult to crack those than anything else, so like we were saying about how Tempo Storm might start stalling out, this is when it's really going to happen, but it is a little bit later into the game now. We see the Dead Man's Plate completed onto Sentinel, so he does have that extra armor to help start this Baron off. But like you see, he still takes a little bit of damage, so they have to be very careful if they decide to go for this.
Yeah, they're just poking around it, but they haven't established as much vision into Team Gates side of the jungle as they had previously had, or as they would want to before that Baron gets taken. So they wisely just poke at it and back away as soon as they sniff out that Team Gates is moving forward and approaching for it. We did mention that Team Gates, they thrive on a little bit more of those unorganized team fights. Week 1 versus Delta Fox, they were able to come back because of a bad Baron fight that Delta Fox had. They lasted all the way until a second or third Elder Dragon fight, where they were the ones that came out on the receiving end of a Katarina reset composition. So they can stall this game out. They can have some damage in the late game, and they can turn around these big fights. But Tempo Storm, they're not falling into those pitfalls that you would that Delta Fox did.
Yeah, they seem pretty happy to grind this game out. You see Quas as being a bully, not even letting him get the Gromp. Poppy just wants a frog, man.
Poppy gets no frog.
See Quas opening up onto Alorum here. He's going to get a... Oh, he jumps the ultimate. Great play by Quas, locking Alorum into the Octagon with him. Looked like he's going to be able to finish him off here.
Yeah, he just wails away on the Poppy and takes him down. Quas is unstoppable on this. Tanky as that Poppy wants to be. It's not enough tank to survive through all that melting that Quas puts down.
We talk about how some Camille's look like they're not very practiced on the champion despite it being very strong. Quas showing some mastery on Camille there, hopping over the Poppy ultimate with his own and able to lock him in there before taking him down.
Well, and with Quas pushing away on the bottom lane, someone's going to have to deal with him eventually as the rest of Tempo Stormers started up this Baron, but Team Gates, they don't know that it's happening. Quas has actually moved all the way up from that bottom lane, just to secure this Baron. Patrick is going to get kicked in. Oh, the Sonic Wave landed. Lee Sin wanted to use him as a taxi, but Quas took him down. The curtain call comes out, but Corki secures the Baron. That is 2 members down on the side of Team Gates if you count Poppy dying earlier on. Azir needs to use the wall to push them away, but he's still going to go down as Freeze wraps around the backside. Team Gates are melting to the pressure from Tempo Storm, and that is a 3-for-0, a Baron, and 11-0 in the kill score.
Right, and looks like they don't even need to go back yet. They're still relatively healthy. They can push this down. Freeze looked like he's looking at that mid inhibitor turret. Sheep kind of low, Patrick's kind of low, but they're not scared at all of Team Gates. They also got the top side with Quas pushing in as well. They're going for these inhibitors right away.
Yeah, Quas even just leaping past the inhibitor, proxy up that minion wave, wanting to take down that top lane inhibitor. At the same time, the rest of his team is taking the mid lane inhibitor. This looks like the replay that we had from game number 1, where both of those inhibitors are going down simultaneously, and Team Gates can only stand by and watch.
So let's take another look at this. I like the idea of Auto Orange using Patrick's as a little escape vehicle to get in there, but he's just too low. He's taking too much damage. Quas moves over, finishes him off so he cannot contest the Baron. And then once the Baron's low, Team Gates is still caught out of position. They wanted to contest it, but now everyone's just too far away from any of the defensive structures. And with the Tahm Kench being able to come reinforced, they're able to pick up a couple more kills.
And the flash chain aggression from Freeze, missing onto Vex, but he did wind up finding himself and Azir as a consolation prize. So 30 minutes into this game, 8 towers to none, all 3 dragons, now to be 4 as the second Ocean Drake gets picked up here by Team Tempo Storm. Like you said, Mark, they're on pace for that perfect game.
Like I said, I tried to jinx them, but it looks like it did not work. Our last hope here, Tom, is that they dive the fountain and give a kill.
That's the last hope if you want to go against your prediction. You want the commentator's curse to be real.
That's what I wanted.
Okay.
I wanted the commentator's curse.
So you want Team Gates to get a kill?
Right, that's what I said.
Okay. I thought you were just
Come on, Tom, keep up with me.
I thought you were saying that they were going to get it and therefore you were jinxing them and it wasn't going to happen.
No, it was the other way around.
Oh, okay. So you want them not to get it. I got it. You just want chaos.
I just want Team Gates to get a kill, man.
Well, Team Gates have only 1 inhibitor left to defend. Meanwhile, Quas is content with split pushing and wailing away on some Nexus towers. Tempo Storm, meanwhile, have 4 remaining members on this bottom side. Tahm Kench going to be able to tank up that tower for a couple extra pot shots. They almost chunk out Strumpus entirely off of that poke combination. And with that, Vex is going to be dove by the Vi. She's charging into the back line. And this looks like it might be lights out for Team Gates. They're trying to stay alive. They're trying to fall back to their summoner platform to heal up. But their Nexus towers are taking damage. The Poppy Hammer goes out, trying to knock people away. But the Octagon's been thrown down, and they're trapping them on the inside. The towers are all going down. The Nexus is going down.
They get the perfect game,
dies.
They got the perfect game against my best efforts. An incredible game out of Team Tempo Storm. We saw that everything was clicking for them basically there. They got the dives off bottom. Quas was winning top. And in the mid lane, they had a ton of pressure as well.
It kind of just looked like textbook League of Legends played by Tempo Storm. They did what they wanted to do. They did what they continued to do from week 1. Have Quas have an advantage in his top side of the map. Check. Have a 3-man roaming squad with a lot of CC led by Freeze and Sentinel. Check. Slowly but surely whittle down the towers on the map and eventually take an objective and win the game.
Right, and I think the big thing you have to look at here is the decision by Team Gates to leave Camille up 2 games in a row. And I think the other thing that was really impressive out of Team Tempo Storm was the fact that they realized these guys don't care about Camille. We actually don't even need to first pick it. They get the Varus on blue side, which is usually hard to do when you're prioritizing the Kha'Zix or other options.
Right, and because of that, Tempo Storm was able to just kind of keep control of the game. They got exactly what they wanted. They played the draft phase extremely well. They played the game extremely well as well. And 18 minutes in, they were able to break away. Really, that was kind of the first set away of like a giant goal gap coming in with a 3-for-0.
Right, I mean, they had done a really good job of controlling whatever they're trying to focus over the course of the game, but this is Team Gates' first real stab at putting an end to it. They get the TP flank with Poppy. He's able to get the interrupt onto Hacktrix's Valkyrie away, but the team is just too far away from follow-up. The knockup also made the Jin W miss as well, and then Hacktrix gets the last-second exhaust off on Alarim, keeping himself alive as now Quas joins the fight late. He's going to open up onto Azir. He's going to get away with just a tiny bit of health, and though it's only a 1 or 2-for-0 right now, they're going to get the long chase down where they're eventually going to find Poppy again after Quas finishes off the Azir.
And that's just the power of the Camille being able to chase down. Almost picks up the Jin before realizing he should turn on the Poppy and save his AD carry and Freeze and save the perfect game.
Right, I mean, It's kind of crazy to think that the Poppy still almost managed to get this kill on the Freeze, but the rest of the team was there to back him up as Alarim's basically doing his best to survive, but not going to be able to.
Yeah, and that's just the power of Tempo Storm and Quas on that Camille pick as well. So he saved his AD carry in that fight. They wound up not having any deaths whatsoever, lost no objectives, and
I mean, very impressive game overall, especially I think the thing that impressed me the most, despite everything going right, was the vision control, which is one of the things that we see teams struggling with most often in the Challengers.
Well, now, besides just us analyzing it, why don't we just get the inside scoop from someone on Tempo Storm themselves? We're going to welcome Freeze via Skype. How's it going?
Oh, hey. How are you guys? I'm fine.
Good. I assume you're fine. You guys just crushed Team Gates.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really like fight back, you know, so it felt a bit less fun for us to crush them like that. But yeah, definitely, you know, going to 0, showing the game, it's like we did like this, is really amazing for us.
Right. Talking about them not fighting back a ton, it felt like once you guys had that pressure in the bot side around you, you know, you had the jungler Vi backing you up the entire game and just getting a ton of vision control, and they just kind of sat there and hovered around while you guys just kept that pressure up. Was this something that you guys work really well around, like having vision around the bot side, or was that just kind of how the game played out?
We obviously have money strategies, but given the champions we had in bot lane, that's usually how you play. You play around your pressure points in the game, and basically when you have a Varus, you have a poke machine, something like if you had a Jace mid lane, it would be the similar case, and you just put the pressure there so they can never ever engage on you. You're ready to disengage when they are looking for it, and then you just poke them up and poke them down, and that way you just chip on the turrets slowly and surely.
Yeah, and we heard from you in the first week. We had a little bit of an interview clip where you were saying that you didn't really want to be the focus point. You're kind of using this as an opportunity to rebuild yourself up. But, I mean, you guys focused on you on the bottom and you got extremely ahead. Like, how are you looking at the NA Challenger Series overall as a way to kind of, like, build yourself back up?
Oh, definitely challenging for me because we have two rivals, big rivals, Goldco and United, and then United teams. They both are looking very strong. I've seen the first game they were playing each other. That was a very long game and back and forth. So I'm very looking forward to play against the Goldco next week.
And then the last thing I want to ask about is what's it like playing with Quas? He's always been a guy with crazier champion picks. And depending on the team environment, sometimes that actually causes friction where some people want you to play meta, and then you have your best champions, which aren't the meta ones. And then you say, practice those in solo queue. What's your team's attitude toward Quas's more unique champion pool?
We're kind of split as a team on it, but trust me, like I'm playing AD carry, right? If I see 5-0 Maokai, then I'm like, there's something wrong about this game. Like this guy is one-shotting everyone and just never dies, you know. Like I'm like pointing a bit like this to Quas that it, like, you know, we should play these, but like we don't really like require for him to play those. We're playing well around him, and when he gets his champions, he's super confident on them and he plays super well, and he gives the hell to enemy top laners, you know, like you don't want to play tanks versus Quas, for sure.
No, he's definitely got some crazy picks in the top lane and some crazy moves on some more meta picks too with the Camille coming in. But I want to congratulate you on the 2-0 tonight, Freeze, and the perfect game. Thanks for the interview.
All right, thank you.
And with tonight matches complete, let's see how the NACS League stands overall. With their 2-0 tonight, Tempo Storm has tied Delta Fox for first place with a 1-1 overall record and 4 points, and the rest of the teams follow behind with a 2-2 record apiece, except for Team Gates, which will still be looking for their first win next Wednesday. And for more league action, be sure to tune into the NALCS starting on Friday as Immortals faces off against Phoenix One in the first game of the night, and then Team Envy will go head-to-head with Team Liquid.
Right, it's a very interesting first night back for the week 3 of LCS. A lot of those teams are struggling right now, and it's going to be very important for them to start picking up some wins, because even early in the season when a team is struggling, they need them to make sure that they're having a safe buffer period coming into the playoffs. And it might be a little early, you'd think, week 3 to be talking about playoffs, but those teams are struggling a little bit, especially someone like Team Liquid who had high expectations coming in.
Right, when you have best of 3 series, there's still plenty of games to play ahead of you, so as much practice you can get in, as much repetition as you can get in, it can only improve you as you get into like that last stretch. As you mentioned, playoffs seem far away, but it's almost week 3.
Right, I mean, that's, you know,
third of the season.
Yeah, 33% gone. And if you know, go 1-1 again, 0-2 again, you find yourself in a huge hole.
All right, so that's going to be it for us tonight. So for myself, Mark, and the entire Challenger broadcast crew, because I can talk. That's our sign off there. We need to go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
Long night.
I want to really keep my eye on what happens when they get picks like this, and they're able to do things like dive. The Assault and Battery comes out at level 6, and they're very quickly able to pick up a first blood. The Poppy knockup is there, but the Assault and Battery onto the Odd Orange, they can't convert, and they can't kill hat tricks. Instead, the Odd Orange winds up going down, and now it's Freeze, Rain in some pain when the arrow charges up a shot and gets a double kill. Team Gates, they tried, but they got nowhere for that, and Quas is not done. The flash and the Octagon gets laid down onto Azir. Azir needs to use the wall to push them away, but he's still going to go down as Freeze wraps around the backside. Team Gates are melting to the pressure from Tempo Storm, and that is a 3-for-0, a Baron,